MOVYing into a new neighborhood can be a real gamble, but I never expected it to be like this. If someone had told me that the biggest headache I'd face would come from a self-appointed neighborhood enforcer, I would have laughed. But here I am, stuck in a never-ending drama with Karen, the worst HOA, homeowners association, tyrant anyone could imagine. You see, Karen wasn't your average neighborhood watch. Oh no, she was the kind of woman who wore a whistle around her neck like it was a sheriff's badge, constantly looking for ways to flex her so-called authority. Her eyes always narrowed, like she was judging every little thing. The whole thing started small. First, it was my mailbox apparently. It was too reflective. Yeah, reflective. As if there was some secret HOA rule about not shining too brightly in the sunlight. Then, it was the grass, just 1 inch too tall. Karen came marching up with a measuring tape, like she was preparing for an invasion. She'd stand there with that smug grin, quoting rules I'd never heard of, like some kind of lawmaker. At first, I thought it was just her being nitpicky. I smiled, nodded, promised I'd take care of it, but the complaints kept coming. My porch light was too bright. My Christmas decorations stayed up 1 day too long. And heaven forbid my trash bins were left out for more than 6 minutes on trash day. It wasn't even about the rules at this point. It was about Karen wanting control, wanting to be feared. Then came the kicker. One morning, I walked outside to find a letter taped to my door. Yes, taped with actual duct tape. It was a citation for an unauthorized modification of my landscape. What did I do? Planted a few wildflowers by the curb, something that no one had ever cared about before. But to Karen, it was an offense. As I read it, I could practically hear her self-satisfied snicker carried on the wind. It wasn't just about flowers anymore. She had declared war, and my only crime was daring to have a little personality in a place that clearly had none. Things escalated quickly from there. Karen's threats became bolder. "Don't make me escalate this," she'd say, her eyes twinkling every time she dropped some vague threat about HOA friends in high places. I knew she was bluffing, but her constant badgering wore me down. So, I confronted her. "Karen, is there an actual problem here, or are you just harassing me because my mailbox blinds you during your 5 a.m. patrols?" She gasped, her face going red. "I have a duty," she sniffed, adjusting her whistle. "Some people just don't respect authority." That's when it hit me. Karen didn't want peace. She wanted control. But things were about to take a turn for the worse. At the next HOA meeting, she smugly announced a compliance audit. I swear, it sounded like something out of a dystopian movie. The whole neighborhood was shaking their heads, too beaten down to fight back. But not me. I wasn't going to let her ruin this neighborhood. It wasn't long after that when Karen took her nonsense to the next level. One Saturday, I was sitting in my backyard, enjoying some peace, when I heard the click of heels on concrete. Before I could even react, Karen popped her head over the side gate, that same smug grin on her face. "We need to talk," she barked, rattling the gate latch like she was some sort of warden. I stood up, wiping my hands on my jeans, and walked toward the gate. This time, Karen wasn't in her usual faded tracksuit. Oh no, today she was full Halloween. She was wearing a navy blue jacket that suspiciously looked like a police windbreaker, complete with a shiny badge clipped to her belt. I blinked at her, taken aback. "Karen," I said slowly, "you're not a cop." Her face didn't flinch. "I most certainly am," she replied, standing straighter, adjusting her fake badge like it would make her look more convincing. "And if you don't comply, I can cite you for obstruction." She pulled a laminated card out of her pocket, flashing it like she had just pulled out a secret weapon. The badge was all wrong. Too shiny, too flimsy. The lettering was all caps in a font that looked like it came from Microsoft Word art. Worse, the badge number? It was literally 1-2-3-4-5. I wanted to laugh, but instead, I just kept my cool. I pulled out my phone and casually hit record. "Mind showing that badge a little closer?" I asked, my voice syrupy with fake politeness. She hesitated, just for a second, before vying the badge forward. I zoomed in, making sure every detail was crystal clear. "And you're with what department again?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Community Enforcement DVY Shaun," she said with all the seriousness of a preschool teacher. "We're responsible for ensuring neighborhood compliance with safety ordinances." My eyes nearly rolled out of my head. "Right," I said, keeping my face neutral. "And does this Community Enforcement DVY Shaun have an office? Or is it just based out of your minivan?" Karen bristled, her face turning red. "You're dangerously close to obstructing an officer in the course of duty," she hissed, doubling down on her fantasy. "I could arrest you right now." I couldn't hold it in anymore. I looked at her, unimpressed. "Tell you what, why don't we call the real police and sort this out? You know, for the paperwork." Her eyes flicked to my phone and back to me. She wasn't expecting me to call her bluff. "That won't be necessary," she said stiffly, taking a step back. "I'm giving you a warning. Next time, it won't be so pleasant." "Karen, you're trespassing," I said, my voice cold. "Impersonating an officer is a felony. You might want to brush up on the law before you try to enforce it." Her face turned blotchy red, but she quickly recovered, muttering something about how some people just don't respect authority. She stormed off, heels clicking loudly. I waited until she disappeared around the corner, then exhaled a sigh of relief. I stared at the video still recording on my phone. That little video would soon become the nail in Karen's coffin. As soon as Karen was out of sight, I walked inside and pulled up my uncle's numbers, the actual chief of police in the town. I knew Karen was in for a rude awakening. The phone rang once before he picked up. "Chief Donovan," he said in his usual no-nonsense tone. "Hey, it's me," I said, already feeling a little guilty for dragging him into HOA nonsense. But this wasn't just about Karen anymore. "You busy?" I asked. "I've got something weird." I explained everything: the fake badge, the impersonation, the intimidation. There was a pause on the line. "She what?" he asked, and I could hear the disbelief in his voice. "You have it on video?" "Crystal clear," I grinned. "Send it to me," he said. A moment later, he called me back. "This is felony territory," he said. "Sit tight. I'll handle this." The very next day, another letter appeared taped to my door, once again with duct tape. This time, Karen claimed I owed Dula $150 for non-compliance with neighborhood rules. But it wasn't just a letter. This one had Officer Karen Johnson, enforcement officer, at the top, a signature as shaky as her badge. I shared the letter on the neighborhood Facebook group, and within minutes, people started commenting. Turns out Karen had been going around handing out fake citations to the whole neighborhood, collecting money from scared residents. Some of the neighbors had actually paid her off, desperate to avoid confrontation. My uncle texted me, "Got the video. This is fraud. We'll be sending undercover officers tomorrow to see if she tries to shake anyone else down. Stay clear, but keep your phone ready." By that weekend, Karen was still strutting around like she was the law, clipboard in hand, handing out more fake citations. But now, she had no idea she was being watched. It wasn't long before the officers showed up, blending in with the neighborhood. They observed Karen, who thought she was still in control, and caught her red-handed trying to extort money from one of the neighbors. This time, it wasn't just a slap on the wrist. Karen was arrested, in front of the whole neighborhood. I couldn't help myself. I pulled out my phone and recorded it all. Karen, once so full of confidence, was now led away in handcuffs. Her reign of terror had come to an end. The news spread like wildfire. Within hours, Karen's mugshot was everywhere, her name becoming synonymous with fraud and impersonation. The HOA scrambled to distance themselves, issuing a sterile statement about how Karen had acted on her own. The best part? The community celebrated. Neighbors who had been too scared to speak up finally came together. Mrs. Patel hung up a sign that read, "No gnomes, no problem." The HOA was now a symbol of transparency and fairness. As for me, I didn't run for office, but I did accept a special honorary title, Community Compliance Historian. It's unpaid and mostly symbolic, but hey, someone's got to remind them what happens when bad actors think they can get away with it. And Karen? She eventually tried to make a comeback, disguising herself under the name Kathy J. But we saw through her, and the community rallied around each other, making sure she never felt comfortable again. In the end, Karen got exactly what she wanted: recognition. But not the way she thought. She became the cautionary tale of our neighborhood, the person we warned others about, the example of what happens when someone takes power too far. She wanted authority, but instead, she became a joke. The moral? If you're going to try to rule a neighborhood with an iron fist, make sure you're not holding a dollar store badge. And maybe, just maybe, don't mess with someone whose uncle happens to be the chief of police. What do you think? Should Karen have been given a second chance, or was her downfall INEVY table? Let me know in the comments below. Do you have a Karen in your neighborhood? Share your stories. We want to hear from you. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories from our community.